Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class this afternoon. This is our second live stream for our ePortfolio class. This is, just a reminder, this is, of course, the class where we're kind of teaching you job skills, right? Because you're getting ready to graduate and go out into the real world, and we want you to know how to get a job. Because that's the next step for most of you, right? I've spoiled it because my PowerPoint's not working correctly today. Let's get that back to our title screen of when is the best time to apply for a job. Although now you're spoiled and you know the answer. So the answer probably won't surprise you. But I'll kind of tell you the precipice of why I wanted to talk about this today. And if we have any questions from anybody who's here live in the chat, please feel free to ask. And we can talk about that stuff as well. But remember, a lot of what we want to do is just kind of make these live streams a little more casual, a little more topic oriented. Just kind of talk about topics of interest, talk about things that, people might want to know. In addition to some of the class stuff that we'll be talking about later on, like I have, we'll talk a little bit more about artifacts at the end of this. But I want to talk about this first. So I was looking through some of your job application assignments last week. And I got asked a question, it said, more or less said, I'm kind of content with the job I have now. And, I don't want to burn any bridges or make anyone upset. And, that's completely understandable, right? Like, nobody wants to really rock the boat in their current position. But especially in the tech industry, like we all are probably wanting to get into, right, one of the things that you'll find is that really people are kind of always open to looking at new jobs, right? It's not very, it's not uncommon at all. It's actually quite common that somebody working at, say, one data center will get a different job at a different data center within a year, 2 years, take that other job to get, a better title, higher pay, whatever. Right? And then just kind of pass around from data center to data center and even end up back at where you started at a higher rate with a better title. Right? Like that's something that's super common here. So one of the things that I kind of want you all to get out of the job application assignments is to always kind of be open to these things, right? And, even though I'm kind of asking you here to kind of be semi-actively job searching, you don't always have to be actively job searching, right? And spending a ton of time sending out applications and working on resumes and doing all this kind of stuff. But you do kind of want to be open to it, right? Because as we've kind of already seen here, the best time to apply for the job is when you already have one. When you already have one, you actually get some pretty interesting advantages when you're applying for a job and you already have one. And this might sound strange to you to say, the best time to apply for a job is when you already have a job. But if you wait until you don't have a job to start applying for jobs, that puts you at huge disadvantages. And I actually have 4 main reasons why you actually want to go ahead and start applying for jobs when you already have one. If you're kind of interested in some, maybe you're interested in a change of scenery, or, at the very least, just being open to, recruiters and new opportunities as they come along, right? So maybe you're not actively applying for jobs, even though I'm asking you to do that, but you're at the very least open to talking to recruiters, sending them your resumes, hearing people out on offers. So I've got, as I've mentioned, I've got 4 big advantages this gives you. One is that you're not desperate. right? Because when you already have a job, you're not worried about finding a job. Which, I mean, when you put it that way, it kind of sounds overly simple, right? But when we think about it from a bit of a different perspective, when we're in a position where we don't have a job or where we're unhappy with a job that we do have, kind of throws our thinking off kilter a little bit, right? We're not necessarily thinking clearly. We're not necessarily making the best decisions. So we'll take a job that might not be right for us just because it's different than the situation that I have right now. Right? It either just is a job, period, or, it's a different job than what I have right now. So maybe it'll be better, maybe it won't. I'll just take it, right? And figure it out. But when you already have a job, even a job that you like, it gives you the opportunity to be more discerning. And you're not put under the stress of needing to make critical decisions on a short time frame. Right? Because you can always just say, no, thank you. And turn them down. Right? If you figure out that, maybe this isn't for you. And also, I think a thing to kind of remember here is that a no thank you, or more appropriately, I've chosen to take another opportunity, is not a forever thing. Right? You might want to wait like 6 months before applying to the same company again. Just so they kind of work you out of the system and forget you for a minute. But like oftentimes, especially in the tech industry, we're talking about, businesses that have, hundreds of employees and regular churn, right? People leaving and coming in all the time. They're not going to remember an application that you sent to them 6 months prior that you turned down the job for after getting, the interview. Right? That's going to be bygones. That's going to be water under the bridge. And if you meet if you check off all the boxes for them, they're not going to care anyway. They're just going to care about the value that you come to bring their company. So even if you do it again, then that's fine. And something that a lot of people don't realize there is that it actually could make you more desirable in the future. Because it's one of those psychological things that people want people who are wanted. Right, with Valentine's Day coming up, you kind of heard stuff like that before, right? Like, oh, nobody ever wanted to start talking to me until I had a significant other, right? Like you've heard stories like that before, I'm sure. And the same thing applies to the job world. If you're wanted, others will want you as well. So if you can say, I'm looking at other opportunities, or I've taken another opportunity right now, then if you come back in a year's time and you're back, they're like, oh, this is that person that those other people wanted, or this person that was working at that other place that, that was wanted there. They must have something to offer. Let's bring them in. Right? Like, they check off all the boxes. We're not the only ones that want them. Other people want them. Let's bring them in. Or let's try to bring them in. Right? So, just in this situation in general, when you already have a job, you're not desperate. You can think clearer. You can make better decisions. You're not just going to jump at an opportunity that might or might not be right for you. The second one is you'll have more leverage to negotiate with. Right? If you get two people, you get two companies that want you, like if your company wants to keep you and this other company wants to hire you away, you have the power. Right? And you can wager, I say here, you can wager more with a better hand, right? Think about it like poker. right? You're playing poker, you got a good hand, you can wager more. You can negotiate and you can leverage these other opportunities that you have. You can even go to your current employer and say, I was contacted by so and so from this company. They're offering me this title, this position and this salary to come work for them. I'm not unhappy with this company, but if we could negotiate a new pay rate for me based on what I've been able to provide the company, then I won't have to take this other job. Basically, you'd use better words than that, obviously, but that's the gist of it, right? So maybe you can negotiate a raise at your current job. Maybe you can negotiate a promotion at your current job, right? Because people wanted people. And you can even kind of play both sides against one another, right? Now, obviously, it's not completely advised to overdo this, right? You can overplay your hand. And if you overplay your hand too much, you could end up busting, right? Leave with nothing. But it gives you a little better position. It gives you more to negotiate with. It gives you a little more power in what is normally a very one-sided toward the company power dynamic, right? And really, like, in the business world, we want kind of every advantage we can get as just employees, right? Because we don't have a lot of them. Like, if we just face facts, we don't have a lot of advantages as employees, right? The business itself kind of holds all the cards. They're the ones that provide the job. They're the ones that provide the salary. You provide your labor. And so at that point, it's how much value does your labor have to that company? And if you can prove that you're wanted and your labor has value, then you might be able to leverage that into something else, right? So it's not necessarily a means to always leave a job you have, even though it could be. The next thing is the issue of timing. It's gone, right? Opportunities come and go. When you need an opportunity, the right one might not be there for you, right? Because it's kind of like that first thing again, right? When you don't have a job, you're on a crunch. You need a job and you need to be able to make money and provide for yourself and your family and all that sort of fun stuff. So, like, the better opportunities, they just might not be available at that time. The timing just might not be right. But if you kind of got your ear to the ground, maybe doing a little light application, a little light applying here and there, maybe getting involved with some recruiters. Again, I'm going to recommend you all go fill out a profile on dice.com. You'll get a lot of recruiters contacting you that way. And, there just might not be a right time for this or that, But if you're not at least kind of passively looking, the opportunity can pass you by and you never even knew it existed. The opportunity of a lifetime could have just come and gone without you ever even knowing it was there. Right? So if you're kind of always looking, kind of always interested, always listening, even if it's just sort of passive, that's not a thing anymore, right? You don't have to worry about that. And the last thing here we have is that You'll gain new perspective on your current job. Maybe your current job doesn't seem too bad because you don't have a frame of reference for anything else, right? Like you get out there and start talking to other companies and seeing what they have going on and what they can offer you and what kind of opportunities they have. Maybe you could start to think, well, like they told me I couldn't get this here and I couldn't do this here. I just kind of was doing this just because I kind of thought that was all there was. But now that I've got this new perspective, I know that there's more out there and I can do more than what I'm doing currently. Or maybe the flip side. Maybe you discover that, the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence. This job isn't so bad after all. Right? I talked to these other people about these other opportunities that were out there but they sound worse. So I need to wait on a better opportunity. Right? So applying for a job when you already have one is not necessarily a bad thing. Really, it's not a bad thing at all. Right? Because it gives yourself some more advantages. You get to use some strategies here. And kind of take control of some situations, which is wonderful because we don't get control of the situation very often as just a regular old employee. Right? So as you're kind of applying for these jobs that you're looking at, I want you to think about this stuff. And even if you have a job now and you're kind of happy with it, just know that it's not a bad thing to look. And even if you do have to tell another company no, they're not going to remember that at all in 6 months, a year. Right? So, no big deal. No big deal. So that's kind of all I have on that. So we'll kind of wrap that up there. I do want to comment about the artifacts again for just a minute. Your artifacts and the rest of Module 1 are due tonight at 11:59 p.m. And again, I just want to kind of reiterate with the artifacts. These are things that kind of prove you can do what you say that you can do. And again, for you networking students out there, please, if you can avoid using packet tracers, please don't use packet tracers as an artifact. I won't let you put them in your final e-portfolio. So if you have the ability to try to find something else right now, please do that. Remember that, these portfolios are not for me, right? I'm helping you build something that can provide you a competitive advantage in the job market. Because you'll have a portfolio that you can send somebody that has all the pertinent information on it, that gets you everything you need, and it makes you stand apart from the rest of the people. So these are for hiring managers. These are for bosses at companies. And you need the packet tracer software to run packet tracers. And that's an educational tool. So it's very likely that the hiring manager at the AT&T data center or the hiring manager wherever you want to go doesn't have packet tracer, can't access packet tracer because they don't have access to the all the Netacad stuff. And so you're just giving them a file that they won't know what it is or how to use it. So it's basically just like not having an artifact for that at all. And it's actually even kind of worse because it's just like, well, what did they expect I would do here? Right. So try to look in other directions. Some like written type of stuff for like project management purposes. These are things that can help. Things like implementation plans, standard operating procedures, different things like that you might have written over time. If you had to build like network topographies, in, something other than a packet tracer. Develop a network plan for installation. If you have certification exams, things like A+, Net+, Security+, Project+, CCNA, all those things, those count as an artifact. I mean, what we're really looking for is just something that can prove that you know what you say you know, that our hiring managers can look at and say, yeah, they know what they say they know. This is demonstrative of that. And then also in doing that, you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, right? Only putting your best projects out there and the best things that you've done out there. Because this is the you that you're presenting to these hiring managers. And you get to control your narrative in these situations. Right? So if you have some kind of mediocre projects, or you have some projects that you didn't do too well on, but you want to kind of pad it out, don't bother. Right? Don't include them. Unless it's good, unless it puts your best foot forward, leave it out. It's better to have too few than too many. Right? Because if I have just 2 or 3 great projects that really show me as a standout and an all-star, then that's one thing, and that's probably going to get you the job. Versus having 12 projects and like 4 of them are kind of crummy. Right? In an e-portfolio, you're only as good as your worst piece of work. But the best part about that is that you get to present your best work. You get to present the you that you want to present through your portfolio. And so that's where I'll leave you all today. If you have any questions for me, it doesn't look like anybody joined me in the live stream today. Well, either way, we'll kind of turn the music back on and just hang out for a couple minutes, just in case anybody has any questions. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to email, feel free to Teams. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.